Hey guys, and welcome back to our ongoing coverage of the Psycho River Killer. And you know from the previous videos that she is in a lot of hot water right now because of her alleged attempt to drown her own husband with the aid of her side piece for life insurance money. She was not able to get the 800 million won, or about $800,000 life insurance policy. But I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, well, how much money was she able to pull out of this guy while he was alive? And what are some of her tactics? And how you can spot the signs and protect yourself, because to be quite frank, a lot of us think that we can't get into this situation, but really what these people are preying on are our varying degrees of just wanting to help other people. So about the insurance money though, you know how she signed up for like 4 to 6 different policies at different times. Like they were always like, some were being paid, some weren't being paid. And so like some were lapsing and some they were able to, pay by the deadline and keep it going. Because if you don't pay the life insurance premiums for 2 payments in a row, if you miss 2 payments in a row, then it gets cut off. But guess who was the life insurance agent? Another one of her ex-boyfriends. I mean, how many? If she had a nickel for every ex-boyfriend, then she might not even have to do these scams. But apparently it was like an ex-boyfriend who recently joined this life insurance company. I think it was a pretty big one too. And he didn't have the experience to, put up these policies, so they had to get one of his senior colleagues to actually do the transactions. But yeah, that's just a tidbit on the life insurance policies that they weren't able to get. But how much money was she able to pull out? My goodness, because she is still officially the wife or the widow, she is still collecting money. Okay, so from any kind of like payouts that come from like a pension, she's still getting the payment because she's officially still the wife. But while they were alive, the sad case was that they were able to find a lot of evidence, and for some reason he recorded a lot of his phone conversations with her, maybe because he never was able to see her, and so he just wanted to record and maybe play back. And also, when you're dealing with a psychopath or people with like a narcissistic personality disorder, a lot of the times they're gaslighting you, and so if you are recording your conversations to play back because they keep changing the past, that is a sign that you're dealing with somebody like this, because you're trying to verify, no, did I really say that? Did she really say that? So whatever the reason was, we have a lot of even phone recording evidence and also the evidence from text messages. Now, why we couldn't get all this information off of SJM's phone or Mr. A's phone, in the Pampohan River case? Well, hello, police. That is a little bit sus, because we're getting everything out of this one, every single detail. But let's focus on how much money. Okay, so remember how they went into the newlywed house? They put down a deposit of about $140,000. And here in Korea, as you may have seen in some of my other videos, but we have 2 types of rental agreements that you can make. So you can pay like a monthly rent just like you would in the United States, or you can put in a lump sum. And so in this case, like $140,000. Usually it's not that cheap anymore, but it's about like 50% to 80% of the total price of the house. And then at the end of the rental contract in 2 years, you get 100% of your money back. And that was Korea's way of traditionally creating a way for people to save money and also to create this investable capital for the owner to then invest it somewhere else. Now it's getting a little bit wonky, but anyhow, she got to keep that housing deposit. So she got the 140 million won, $140,000, and that was like after the death. But during his life while married to this girl, which was not even that long, it was like 2016 to 2019, and it was like less than 3 years, there was about $200,000 in cash transfers to his wife, to his wife's boyfriend, to his wife's father, and to about 3 friends. Yeah. And about 24 million won, about $20,000 deposited in local banks that were like associated with them. So in terms of a total cash outlay that went directly into traceable accounts that we can see from his bank account was about like $230,000. And so that was money that he had saved up. And so this was really kind of crazy. How she did it, we'll get into in a little bit. I just want to give you the tally first. Then, not only that, she was able to make him take out all of these loans that also totaled in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. One in particular was just from his company. Now in Korea, if you are a long-term employee, they call it a regular employee, you essentially are like an employee for life. And it's really hard to fire you. And a lot of the times, if you work for a big enough conglomerate, and he certainly did, the company will loan you money. And so apparently he took out like about $100,000 loan from the company. And a lot of the times that's tied to your severance, because the way that Korean law works is that like for every year that you're there, when you leave, you're kind of accruing like, as if it's like vacation time or PTO, there's a separate thing called severance. So like you kind of walk out the door with some sort of severance. And so that somewhat replaces, I guess, like the social security system. People are meant to use that for their retirement in a lump sum. And so his, I think, came out to about $100,000 at that point in his career. And so they had to repay some of the loan. So he took out a loan, maybe about $50,000, it seemed. And then when he passed away, they paid off that $50,000, and then she got to keep the remainder of the $50,000. So another source of cash. She also drove around his car, remember, and she got about $10,000 in traffic fines, and she did not even pay them. So all added up, they're estimating that she kind of conned him out of like about $700,000. And it's not even just him, but his family as well. So let's go over just a couple of her tactics. So one of her excuses was that she needed money to set up an illegal sports gambling site. So of course, all of y'all know gambling here in Korea is illegal, and I got a video on that you can check out, but a lot of people still want to gamble. And so in the underworld in Korea, there's, I guess, a lot of these sites that you can go to. And I go, oh, of course, she wants to set something like that up. I don't know if she really knew how to do it. So she is claiming, though, but in the process of her setting it up, she got hacked herself by an illegal gambling site. And so the illegal gambling site was threatening her, and she really needed money to pay them off. Well, apparently, when he did give the money went to not like some hacker situation, it went to her boyfriend. Yeah, so police are investigating whether she actually did set up or try to set up this illegal sports gambling business, or whether that was just a story that she made up with her boyfriend to, make an excuse of the desperate quick need for quick cash transfers. Now, another scam, when his accounts had been depleted, when he was basically complaining to her, and it was so sad to hear some of these conversations saying she was asking for money, and he was like, I don't have any money right now because I had to pay the taxes for the car and the property and the gas bill and the electricity bill. She's like, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, okay, bye. She was so disinterested in him, and it was obviously clear that she only wanted to talk to him whenever his paycheck came in and she can extract the money. She even was on the phone, and you can hear her get upset that he had paid his back rent because he was late on even his rent payments, because they weren't living together. She made him live in some basement, it was the Parasite movie all over again, and he was late on his rent, and so he basically paid a couple months of his rent. And she called and she's like, oh, I need money. And then he's like, oh, I don't have it because I just paid my rent. She's like, you paid your rent? How could you do that? And people were just listening to this being like, wow, this girl is something else. So apparently he had gotten down to this really, really bad point where he couldn't even have $3 to go to the convenience store to buy ramen and bottled water. He said that during the week he could eat for free at the company cafeteria, but it was the weekends that were tough, where he didn't have any money to get groceries. He even had photos that he was sending to her, saying can you please give me some money because she got all the money. And he had shoes that had holes in them, tennis shoes that were falling apart that he couldn't even replace. And I'm sure she probably also led with the con of oh yeah, well in Korea, a dutiful husband gives the paycheck first to the wife to manage. And that is sort of how it went in the olden days, the man would go to work and then he'd give the management of the household budget to the wife, and then the wife would be diligent and then give an allowance to the husband. So somewhat in that way, if you're wondering oh, why is that kind of it's a little bit weird, why is he asking his wife for the money when he's making the money? I'm sure she could have conned him into that and saying this is the traditional dutiful way. Of course, we don't have exactly that conversation, but what we do know is that he just did not have any access to his own funds. And so she was able to convince him to even ask for a credit card from his older sister. So his older sister sent him a credit card that she thought that, her brother was going to use. He immediately sent that over, and who actually got it? It was Eun-hae's boyfriend. And what did they do not just hours after receiving it? That night, they charged 5.6 million won on that credit card. That's about $5,500, $600. Where? At a gas station. And people are just like, wait a minute, that is really, really weird. Who buys that much gas? The media went over to the exact gas station. See, how we have all these details and we had no details with the SJM case. But they went to the gas station and its owner had changed. Seems convenient. But the guy was like, okay, well, yeah, this does look suspicious because, 2 years ago when he calculated the gas prices, because, our gas prices went up too. And he said that would be about 3,500 liters, which is about 924 gallons. the average gas tank of a car has 15 gallons. So they would have had to fill up 61 cars, 61 empty cars. And so they're like, what is this? Do they have like a semi truck or something? And the new owner said, obviously it's 카드깡. And 카드깡, like card gang, basically that means it's an illegal cashback transaction using a credit card. So what they would do is, swipe the credit card there for some like ridiculously large amount, and then the owner would give them cash and probably take a little bit of a commission, for that service. And that is what they did. And they put the card, the transaction on a 24-month payment plan. Okay. So in Korea, like the way credit cards work is that it's not a revolving credit. You just kind of like choose to pay whenever, like at the time of purchase, you decide, like whether you're just gonna pay it off that month like an Amex, or like you can choose like, oh, I want to divide this installment in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and each month choice has a different percentage attached to it. And so 24 months has like the most amount of APR, and then the shorter months have like smaller. And then usually sometimes there's always like specials, like they're trying to sometimes there's just like 3 months interest free or 6 months interest free, depending on whatever promotions there are. So they made I don't know any, but 24 months is crazy. So they really pulled one off with this gas station. So did she have remorse? Did it look like she knew she was doing something wrong? And so it seems as if she knew she was in hot water, especially in December of last year. Remember, she went on the run at the end of December when she got questioned. But there is a text message from her phone saying to several friends that if I get caught, most likely I'm going to be going to jail. She said that even the lawyer said that I most likely would be going to jail. So it looks like she had consulted a lawyer, but then she also said in this message, so I want to disappear for a while, try to make more money so that I could get a proper lawyer. So people are saying like, look, she knew what she was doing was wrong. She thought that she was gonna go to jail, but she wasn't remorseful about it as if like she did something wrong. It was more as if like she felt like this was an unfair situation where she just didn't have a good enough lawyer. Now, some Korean people are really upset by that behavior, but then when I look at it, I'm like, well, what do you expect? This is exactly how you teach ethics to young children in Korea. It's not about whether you did right or wrong. It's whether you have the resources or not to get out of trouble, which is the goal. The goal, she is, unfortunately, the sad part about this whole thing is that she is actually being more rational than most people out here being all like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Because this is what our society is teaching kids to do these days. And so she is basically focused very clearly on the solution, which is like the only way she'll get out of this is to have a lawyer that can really manipulate the system, as she has seen countless times, most likely. The type of business she was in. Y'all, we gotta be clear and frank on this. Those types of establishments, where you're paying for the time of a girl and services, usually only the people who can afford that are like politicians and very rich people who have these types of lawyers. And while they are there, just, talking and doing all this stuff, they're telling story after story after story after story. So, of course, she knows exactly what the process is, and that probably has set her expectations of how, society operates and what she needs in order to win this situation. However, what she did not anticipate most likely is that this is probably also, when you look at how hard the hammer is going down on these two, I think it's also a signal from the elite saying to this class, y'all don't get any ideas of trying to flap your mouth or try to get any ideas that you have any power because we can shut you down. So all of the secrets that you see, you have no ability to use because they control the interpretation of what's right or wrong. And while they may interpret it on a more advantageous level for themselves, for you all, you have no hope ever in beating this system, so don't try to challenge. So I think in some way it seems a bit unfair for this kind of, it almost seems like we're kicking somebody when they're down. However, she is dangerous. I mean, how many more bodies need to pile up? However, how many more bodies needed to pile up with somebody who recently ran for president? Let's remember. And where is he? Where are his text messages? And apparently he was, because they know. So apparently, that guy that ran for president, he did not like to speak on the phone. He always liked to do video chat. And apparently on video chat, you can't stealthily or even record those as well. So there's fewer, records of phone calls of of recordings. And maybe he learned that after, when we went over those cases of, him yelling and screaming and being recorded on phone calls, abusing his own family. Maybe then he smartened up and realized, if you have a video chat on, it's harder to then record whatever conversation that was. But anyhow, those are some of the scams she pulled. That's some of the money that she was able to rake in. And so when people are wondering, where'd she get these ideas of getting a lawyer like that? Was she thinking of, being on the run and yet still pulling in money? Well, this girl, has a lot of ideas. What do you guys think? Comment below, and remember to like, share, and subscribe. See you again next time. Bye-bye, guys.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.